Prime Minister also has released a statement saying that she's been the stalwart of our times. Remember her first visit in 1961, and then even right now for India to talk about the manner in which with grace and dignity that she has maintained in her public life. I request both our reporters to please continue to be with us. Deepak Vora is a former diplomat. He's been an Indian ambassador as well. So thank you for joining me, because this, this is not just India or the United Kingdom announcement. This is for the world that's mourning. There was definitely an affinity with the manner in which Queen Elizabeth held her position, interacted. There was also a little bit of legend around her while she was alive. Unlike the new modern royals, she kept her distance as well. But do tell us, because even in the United States of America, to keep their flag at half-mast, to pay the tribute, and for President Joe Biden to say that she was the only steady presence in the world that was constantly changing, and that is so appropriate, isn't it, sir?
Thank you very much, ma'am. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be with you and learn from you, plus your correspondents who have expressed themselves so eloquently. I'm in New York. It's 40 minutes after 10 in the night here, so you can see that beautiful city lit up all behind me. American television has been covering the story of Queen Elizabeth II's life, talking about it, certain kind of fascination with monarchy, with royalty. America also was a former British colony, just as we were, etc. Now, what is happening here, what I can see, ma'am, that she was regarded as a person who was a kind of lovable, affectionate grandmother, kind of Masi, always around, always there to help. Most British people today have not known anybody else on the throne. I had met her in 1980 in Tunisia when I was posted there. My overwhelming memory is of a very gracious, dignified and elegant lady who shook hands with all the assembled diplomats. She even had an impish sense of humor. And her consort, on the other hand, Prince Philip, he had his arms behind his back and merely nodded at us. But she really was a woman who you felt comfortable with, even though she was royalty and we knew that there was a distance between her and commoners like me. Nevertheless, we had a lot of respect for her because she had come to embody the national identity of the British people. Man, there's some interesting incidents in her life. You might recall that it was in July 1982 that an intruder entered her bedroom in Buckingham Palace because the security system had collapsed, and she just calmly walked out and called her security chaps and said, well, get rid of this fellow, etc. It was handled with a lot of grace and dignity. Some major events during her lifetime, her long reign. First, the increasing irrelevance of the United Kingdom. After the Second World War, the UK went into accelerated decline. It's no longer relevant. It doesn't have the position that it did once upon a time. Certainly the Queen in countries that were former colonies of the British and are now members of what is referred to somewhat cynically, I believe, as the Commonwealth, they of course had a certain relationship with her because most of them became independent in the 60s when she was already the Queen of England. So Britain did intervene in Malaya, Brunei, Cyprus, etc., in Kenya, where they had the Mau Mau revolt, Uganda, Oman. Correct. But after the 1982 Falklands War, the interventions that the British tried to do in the world was always on the back of the United States, whether in Iraq, Yugoslavia, Kosovo, Sierra Leone, Afghanistan, etc. Then during her reign, we've seen Britain's economic decline following the self-goal of quitting the European Union. It's also declining significance for England. Nobody really has too much of respect, if I may say, for a country that once ruled a quarter of the world. Correct. Then the scandals in the royal family, with the present monarch, King Charles III, marrying his sweetheart after the death of his wife, the much-loved Princess Diana, then one of the grandsons marrying a non-white commoner, etc. Apparently, these events greatly distressed the Queen. And then the possibility of the breakup of the United Kingdom. She was not supposed to express an opinion, but we are told that she said to one of the palace insiders, I hope the people of Scotland decide to remain with us. And she obviously was very fond of Scotland. Interestingly, she died in Scotland. And one more thing, the king is dead, long live the king. This is a traditional proclamation. It's a seemingly contradictory phrase. The original was, of course, from France in the 15th century. Le roi est mort, vive le roi. The king is dead, long live the king. Which means that there is continuity. You salute the new monarch. So now we have King Charles III. She was also the head of the Commonwealth, naturally. Africa, Asia, America, Europe, Pacific, I think 54 or 55 countries. That position, head of the Commonwealth, will not go automatically to her successor, but he will have to be accepted and
Yes.
voted by many of the heads of governments of the countries, that some are republics, others still keep the British monarch as their head of state. Then the currency, passports, national anthem will have to be changed. One other incident that I remember very distinctly, ma'am.
Please go ahead.
1997, I was in India when the royal couple visited Amritsar, and people were hoping that she or her consort would say, we're very sorry about what happened in Jallianwala Bagh, where 2,000 unarmed men, women and children were massacred by a mad, demented British general. They did not, and instead the prince got into an argument over the casualties and claimed that the general's son had told him that it was not 2,000 but 290 people who died or whatever it was. The people of Amritsar were not very impressed with them. So what has happened, it is the end of an era. It's a transition. She had good relations with all her prime ministers. She had several, except, I believe, with another very strong woman, Lady or Dame Margaret Thatcher. Their relationship was very, very tense. They didn't get along at all because Margaret Thatcher felt that the Queen, that the fact that she had to go to her for her weekly briefing, etc., it was a waste of time since the Queen played no role in Britain's politics, etc.